That's when I finally saw it. It stepped into view. It was like a side view. So all I could see was a massive shoulder, no neck whatsoever. Their face is the only thing that looks like there's no hair. I could actually see a cheekbone. I could see the side of the wide nose. And oh my God, their eyes are a wild, far too close for what I wanted to be, believe me.
You're listening to the Cryptid Crew Podcast. I'm your host, Mark Childers. Before we get started, if you've had an encounter or an experience or just something unexplained, click on our link tree in the description and share your encounter. Thank you for listening to the Cryptid Crew Podcast. On this episode of the Cryptid Crew Podcast, I would like to welcome back to the show for part 2, friend, outdoorsman, and former Floridian, Nate Halverson. Nate, thank you for coming back.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Our first episode, you had a ton of incredible stories that you shared, and from the Sunshine State, of course, from Florida. And if you want to, let's just kind of dive right back into where we left off. We were talking about stick structures and stuff and different things like that, but I'll let you lead the way and I'll just kind of follow.
All right. I'll never forget the first time I saw structures. It's both a good sign and a bad sign. When you see one, obviously, if you're looking for them, keep going in that direction. But if you're not looking for them, which I recommend because the ones in Florida are fairly aggressive, go the other way. It was by an old creek bed, and I was out by Old Horseshoe Lake, and Bear Lake wasn't too far away out in the National Forest. You know, it's really, really thick area. And like I said, our national forest is the second largest in the country. So it just goes on forever. And the palms are the problem because it builds like a wall. Like you can't even see those palms, those plants grow up. And they're as high as me or higher, you know, and you just can't see anything through it. So you don't even know really where you're going. And I saw it and I thought, well, that looks odd. What is that? And it was a woven basket by this creek bed, and you could tell that it was some kind of fish trap. And I was looking at it real close, and I felt like a stickiness. They even had their own type of glue that they were making out of tree sap, I'm assuming. And it was real sturdy, too. I mean, I shook it, and I was feeling it, and I was like, man, this is actually pretty strong. And there was small green fresh vines that were woven to really hold it in place. And I thought, well, this is neat. And I shouldn't have touched it. I wish I wouldn't have touched it because I ended up leaving my scent on it. And you'll understand that in a minute. So I set it back down and I just continued walking, you know, and that's when I started to hear the hooting. Now, I'm used to hearing owls all the time in Florida. So it's nothing new to be walking in the woods in Florida and hear a hoot. You know, it's not uncommon at all, but it sounded different to me. And I'm like, well, that sounded pretty powerful for an owl. You know, anyway, I didn't think nothing of it and I kept going. And in the distance, I saw what looked like an X high up in the trees. And I thought, well, wow, what is that? So as I got closer, I started to see the form. It was like a half a circle at the bottom, and then it went up into a teepee at the top. So it was like a double shape in design, and there was an X at the top, the way they did the trees. And it was a massive X, by the way. It wasn't just a few sticks sticking up. I mean, it was 2 actual trees. And I thought, wow, somebody really spent some time building this, you know? And when I got closer, it was the same thing. I saw the sap glue. I saw vines holding it together. And the only thing I saw different on this one is they tried to interlock the logs. So they would put one log in between 2, and then they would put, 3 around that. And like they were trying to build like Legos, which was pretty smart. But you can always tell it's them now that I'm older and experienced is they reach up as high as they can on a decent pine tree and they grab it and they're so strong. And this is what's incredible is they can literally just break a tree with one hand. It's absolutely phenomenal. But whenever you see trees broke off like that, 8, 9, 10 feet in the air, it wasn't the wind, you know what I mean? At least in Florida, we ain't getting no wind like that unless it's a hurricane. So I'm walking around and I'm looking at the structure and I heard a really loud knock. I mean, they must have struck a tree with another tree or something. It wasn't no tree limb. It was explosive. So I jumped startled and I turned around and I started looking. I really couldn't see anything, but that's when the smell started to hit me. And I thought, oh man, dear God, what is that? It actually burned. It made my eyes water. Yeah, it was hard to see for a minute. I mean, it was so pungent and awful. I almost gagged, really. It was pretty bad. And I looked around and I thought I saw a shadow move in between two trees. So I really started to look. Now, this is in broad daylight. I mean, this wasn't even, wasn't even remotely dark. But like I said, the forest is so thick, with the palm fronds and just the rows of trees. It's just crazy. So it's hard to really tell. But then the sun was coming through in this one opening, and I'll never forget it. And that's when I finally saw it. When it stepped into view, it was like a side view. So all I could see was a massive shoulder. I could see the huge conical shape of the head, no neck whatsoever. Their face is the only thing that looks like there's no hair. I could actually see a cheekbone. I could see the side of the wide nose and that one eye. And oh my God, their eyes are a wild amberish color between orange and red. And how they illuminate is amazing. Even in daylight, I could clearly see the eye color. I was far too close for what I wanted to be, believe me, at that point. He was probably only 50 or 60 yards in front of me at this point. And I heard another knock behind me. And that's when I really got scared. I realized that there's a lot more than just him or her. So I turned around in the direction of that knock, and no sooner did I do that than I heard one off to the east, and then I heard one off to the west as well. And I was like, man, I am really in some trouble now. So panic set in, just a total dread, a fear. I mean, like I felt it in my bones. You know what I mean? I see this thing, and I don't know if it sees me or not, but it's standing still, and it starts leaning and rocking like this. And then he started to scream his hooting. I mean, just really loud and bassful. And he didn't growl yet, so he's warning me. Well, I'm kind of disoriented, you know what I mean? And I'm not sure what direction, you know what I mean, to go back in. And that's when I started getting stuff thrown at me. I got hit in the shoulder with a rock. I got hit with a stick in the back. And that really hurt. I shouldn't even call it a stick. It was more like a small tree branch. That hurt pretty good, too. I had a bruise there later, my mom said. But anyway, I panicked, and I just turned and I picked the direction that I thought was best. And I just started running. The scary thing is they chased me, and they were attacking at the same time. And I'm hearing these heavy footfalls. I mean, like bass speakers, like I was at a concert. It was terrifying. And they're very accurate. Then I got hit in the side of the face, and I actually have a scar above my eyebrow where the rock actually cut me. So now I got blood running in my eye, and I got hit in the side by something. I don't even know. I didn't even see what that was. I don't even know what hit me in the side. So I fall and go down, and another big, good-sized rock. I'm talking about bigger than a softball. And I heard this huge crack thud, and it bounced off the tree by me and hit the ground. And when I saw the size of the rock, I was like, shoot, I'll die if I get hit with this, So fear and adrenaline actually got me to stand back up after whatever hit me in the side. So I just ended up taking off again. And I could hear them. And they chased me all the way out. and they never stopped throwing, and they never stopped hooting and hollering. And as soon as I got to where it was okay, it just stopped. It was amazing.
Nate, how many do you think there were?
I heard 4 knocks in 4 different directions, but whatever blindsided me, I don't know, I didn't see it, but I had bruised ribs. I had to
Di
wear bandages, and yeah, it was terrible.
what time of year was that?
It was in fall, right before winter. Probably in Florida, it was probably late November, maybe early December, somewhere around there.
Okay. Let me ask you this, when you saw the basket or the contraption that was in the creek and the sticks or the, trees that were crossed, did you have any idea at the time what you were looking at?
No, because my first experience of seeing Bigfoot ever, like I said, was on the farm. And no, I never really saw structures before. So this was like my first time. This was in 92. I was probably 17. It was, but I always camped. I loved camping. I loved hiking. I loved fishing. I used to bow hunt. Sadly, I didn't have my dogs with me at the time. I had a brindle pit and a red nose pit, but sadly, I didn't have them with
Okay.
me on this hike. But it's a lesson learned. Always took the dogs again
Yeah,
after that.
well, animals seem to have another sense that we don't have when there's danger around, or at least alert you
Well,
to
animals are
something.
awesome because a friend of mine was studying to be a veterinarian, and he was explaining to me that animals, they can even feel and sense pressure. They can feel oppressive, whether it's supernatural or whether it's storm pressure. Or she was just explaining to me how awesome the dogs' senses are. So yeah, you're right. An animal can detect way more than anything we can.
Yes, for sure. Let me go back to the rock throwing or the limb or whatever it may have been. There's been numerous accounts where you've had fishermen fishing in a river or lake where they've had rocks thrown at them from a hill or from a bank or from a wooded area, and there's no one around. They have no idea what had happened until they did some research on their own and found out, hey, these creatures do throw things.
And quite accurately, I might add.
Yes, and I've heard that as
They only
well
missed me a few times,
multiple
and if that
times.
one would have hit me, it would have been the end. Because, like I said, it was bigger than a softball. So
Well, it sounds like to me they were escorting you
yeah,
out of their property, or not their property, but their habitat,
they were bodyguards at a concert. Yeah, they were leading me out. They sure were. But it's amazing because the minute I made it to the clearing on the other side by the national park, it just all stopped. It was amazing. Nothing else was thrown. I heard no more noise. I faintly heard a few twig snaps here and there when they turned around and left, but yeah, it was amazing. As soon as I got to where they wanted me, I was out of their territory completely. Yeah,
How close were you how close were you to a roadway or somewhere where there was traffic or
I was
something like
probably
that?
200 yards or so deep in the wood line from the park. So I had a
Okay.
good 2 football fields of terror to run the gauntlet there. And I don't know what was scarier, getting thrown things at or the sounds, because the sounds were terrifying because they'd be at a distance, then they'd get closer, then they'd sound like they were right on top of me. I mean, oh, the sound effects were just, I think that was more psychological terrifying than the physical pain and getting hit.
Right. Was it whoops or howls or screams or
It
what
was
was it?
it was hoots, and then it was like screaming, and it was never growling. The growl I heard on the farm, and boy, until you hear one growl, you have no idea. Man, that was the most bone chilling sound of all time. You feel it in your chest. You actually feel their aggression. You actually sense and feel it. You get goosebumps. Your hair stands up. You sweat, you get nervous, you get dizzy, you actually get disoriented hearing it. Like, I don't know, there's something in their voice with something in the decibels or something, but it'll hit your ears and it'll actually make you physically ill. You'll even
Yeah.
have a faint headache. The symptoms vary, but it's crazy. When you get near them, for some reason, there's something they can project to actually disorient you.
Yes, I agree. There's been lots of reports, of people feeling nauseated or headaches or dizziness, or just not in the right mindset. And I think lines or different predators can put out an infrasound, and that's been proven to stun your prey. And I believe they can do that as well. I believe there's some type of frequency we don't audibly hear, but you
I
can
agree
feel it.
because I'll tell you, I've felt it a lot. I mean, you hear it, Mark, but you feel it to your bone. It's crazy. It's hard to explain, but boy, you feel it. Every sound, every
Yeah.
vibration, every grumble, it's you feel it.
What time of day was that encounter?
Oh man, I had just had lunch. I put out the fire. So it was probably about 12:30, 1 p.m. And that's what shocked me about this encounter is because only in a few states, and Florida's mainly one of them, a lot of the encounters are in broad daylight.
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of that, we had talked just briefly beforehand of the Ocala National Forest, and I was on the BFRO website, and it's Marion County, which has quite a bit. If you were in Marion
Yeah,
County,
in Ocklawaha. Yeah, I was in Marin County.
right? Well, there's tons of what they classify as a Class A sighting, which is a visual sighting with multiple witnesses, daylight sighting, Hopkins Prairie, Ocala
Yep,
National
that was where we
Forest.
were just at.
Gotcha. All right. Another one in February of 2012, daylight sighting by a retired wildlife officer in Ocala as well. So, that's typically if you have a law enforcement officer, somebody like that, or a veteran, what have you, that's credible to me. And some of these people do not want any publicity to go with the sighting or the
No,
report.
because everyone's afraid of the men in black that always show up to claim a body or to hush witnesses, or you have to sign this form. And if you talk, you'll be prosecuted. They threaten people. No one wants publicity because no one wants what comes with it. And let's be honest, those
Right.
shadow government groups that keep up with this, especially the dog man, Mark. I hear about that more than anything.
Yeah, I've heard some reports about that and discussed it on a couple of episodes prior. Um, that, you know, what it is, I'm not sure if anybody knows except possibly the government, and they do know about them. There's no doubt in my mind because I know for a fact of someone that had an experience and had um, someone show up, at their door after they had posted
Asking
something,
questions,
and
yeah.
it was taken down. Asking questions, absolutely. Um, but here, I was going back to publicity or wanting popularity or notification or notoriety out of a report. This goes back to 1977 in Marion County, and it happened in November as well, so close
Yeah,
to the time of your encounter. And it was it's Baptist minister that had a daylight sighting.
Mark. That's the time of year in Florida where we actually start to get our small winter. It's nothing like a
Yeah,
long winter here in
right.
Pennsylvania, but our winter in Florida is very brief. But anyway, yeah, that's about the time it gets cold. So I think we're getting a lot of sightings in Florida for that time of year, mainly because they have their offspring, they're foraging, they had their children in the spring. Uh, so I mean, I think they're foraging. I think they're getting ready for the cold because there's a lot of water around Florida. There's springs, there's creeks, there's lakes. It's just all over the place. I mean, Florida's just full of water. So to get wet
Right.
and to be cold, you know what I mean, and be hairy, you know, they're going to be really cold. You know what I mean? Because that hair is going to absorb the waters. They don't like to forage in the winter, obviously, you know.
Well, there's lots of animals that like to move, this time of year, and deer are one of them, and that's a food source for that animal, for Sasquatch or Bigfoot. And if the animals or their food's moving, they're going to move as well. And I think that's where you'll have more sightings.
Yeah. I had a report from a good friend of mine. He was a park ranger there in Ocala, Florida at the National Forest there Museum. And I met him at a diner and he'd always show up and we'd always talk. And he told me one of the scariest accounts. And he said he was in his patrol truck and he was going down the dirt roads, you know, the fire roads of the parks. And he's checking to, you know, make sure everything's good. And he's seeing there's any illegal campers or, you know, anyone that's injured, or he'd always do patrols. And he said he had to stop his truck because some deer were crossing the road in front of him a little ways up. He said probably about 40 or 50 feet in front of him. So he stopped to give him space. And he said that's when he saw it. He said a rock came out of nowhere and hit this deer right in the side of the head. The deer collapsed, hit the ground. He said this huge mound of hair and muscle moved with incredible speed, shot out, snatched up the dead deer. He said he was holding it like it was nothing, and it just took off. And he had it by the neck, he said. And the feet were just dangling. And he said the speed, he said the incident only lasted probably 5, 6 seconds. He said it was that fast.
Oh, wow.
So it came from being
That's
hidden
crazy.
to the road to grab it and gone like that quickly. I mean, he said it was just so fast. He said he was so scared. He said he sat there for about an hour and a half, making sure that thing was long gone before he kept going in that direction.
Yeah, and people wonder why, they don't see them, or why they haven't killed one, or if there's been a body and so forth, and they're just so elusive.
This is where I go back to I think they're interdimensional. I think they can go stealth, and I think they can step in between dimensions at will. I don't necessarily think they're an alien, but I think they're a type of like Nephilim offspring from like the Book of Enoch talks about. I think there's some kind of magical beast for real.
There's a reason there's not as much physical evidence, as there should be with all the reports that are out there, and not including all the reports that are that have never been told. There's no telling this how many that's never been told. But have you ever heard of Small Town Monsters production?
No, can't say I have.
That's probably one of my favorites. They have had a documentary of theirs where they had someone on where there was a sighting of it, one stepping out of a portal and then just taking off. It was not there, and then it was there, and somebody reported that. Not wanting, I'm assuming, any publicity for it, but that's not the only time that's been reported. But that's just an example.
Typically in Florida, I call it the lantern effect. You typically see orange, brightly colored orbs that are slightly yellow on the inside. And they look like they're pulsing, they look like they're vibrating, almost like they're alive and breathing. But typically, when I did have a lot of my sightings in all my years of hunting and fishing there, it got common to see them, Mark. I mean, I see a strange light in the woods and think it's someone with a lantern or, a torch or something. And lo and behold, it turns out to be this floating orb that just moving it. And typically that's when you hear it. You hear the whoop, or you hear a tree knock, or, you know what I mean? It's crazy. Those sightings are typically common.
I had a guy that I had met one time, and I've told this before. He was camping with some friends of his, I believe in North Georgia. They saw a orb. I think he said it was orangish color, if I remember correctly, orangish white color, floating. If you were to take a 20-year-old pine tree, maybe the first limb or so high, the orb was. And it was just moving through the trees. And one of the guys just kind of took off after it, and they're like, "What are you doing?" They all saw it. And once that orb disappeared, they heard crashing of like
Yeah.
brush and sticks, and it's like something was running off. But he couldn't explain what he saw. And he, at the time, he told me, he said, I did not believe, I never really thought about Bigfoot or Sasquatch or anything like that. And he's not saying that's what it was. I'm not saying that's what it was, but,
Well, let's be honest.
we
What
don't
what
know.
has that kind of girth and size and power to be making stuff explode and break like that? I mean, shy of a bear
Yeah.
or a really big wild boar. I mean, there's really not nothing else that could do that. And if it would have been a bear or
Yeah.
a boar, they would have heard, the sounds, the grunts of the pig or, that
Sure.
chattering, heavy breathing, but, grunting by a bear, they would have heard something. I think anyway. So, you know, probably was
Right.
Bigfoot, to be honest.
Could be. Very well could be. Nate, let me ask you this. Did you ever think you would encounter something like
No,
this?
nobody ever does, but I always believed in them. I did a book report in school. My mom still has it. I did it on Bigfoot when I was a little kid in school. So I've
Oh, that's
always been a
awesome.
believer. I was born in 74 and the Patterson thing happened when I was like 5 years old, I think. And I just became obsessed with that. So yeah, I've always been a believer, but did I think I'd ever actually see one? No. And no one ever does until it happens. And it's
Right.
a shock to your system
Right. Yeah.
because your brain can't register it as a normal animal or a normal incident. So your brain actually goes into like a shock, like, oh my God, what am I seeing?
Well, you're not processing what just happened.
Yeah, it's mind blowing to say the least. Have you ever seen one? Have you ever had an encounter?
Never had an encounter with a Sasquatch or Bigfoot. I think I mentioned on the episode before where me and you were talking on some family land. We had a recording, and we sent the recording off, and it came back from the gentleman that checked it out. Did some work with it. He said it was no known forest creature of any sort. And only thing I could make of it, it had something. It was something that had girth, huge, powerful lungs, and it was more than one to make that sound. And in the middle of all of that was a tree knock or wood knock or rock clack, whatever that was. eh, I, I don't know, but it was. There's no telling how many times I've
Well, you
played that.
certainly could have had one then because they were close if you were hearing all that. They
Yeah,
typically
yeah.
they typically do tree knocks at probably 3, 4, 500 feet.
Yeah, it was. He said it was the closest one. The gentleman that recorded the sounds said the closest one was probably 50 yards. He said if it was daytime, he would
Oh
have seen
wow.
it. And then the other was further off. You could tell in the recording how far away. I don't know, maybe 100 yards, possibly. I'm not sure. And it had to be. Well, I mean, there's obviously they were traveling, and there's a creek right there. They say, hey, they
They
follow
follow
they
water.
follow.
Yeah. I remember an episode of Mountain Monsters and they found a cave that had drawings of nothing but bodies of water, all the different rivers. And it showed little drawings depicting long, hairy men, following the water. And so that's why I firmly believe that because seeing that episode and those drawings on that cave, that was pretty mind blowing. And it had every single one. And
Yeah.
it led all the way up to Michigan, even the Great Lakes. It was incredible. The drawing was so extensive,
Yeah.
it must have went for, oh man, close to 100 feet on this cave wall. It was mind blowing.
Wow. Yeah, I think in the Southwest, it's either New Mexico or Arizona has some drawings on the cave walls from Native Americans that date back. I can't remember what I've read about it or seen, maybe 1,000 years, maybe longer, of something tall and big like that from the drawing. And of course, they don't know what it was. Just a tall,
Oh,
hairy
in their
man
culture,
is what most of them
every
refer to.
every tribe talks about them. My buddy's actually Indian, Ojibwe from the Michigan area. And every tribe and every culture you look into, they all talk about the woodland brother, or, the protective forest spirit, or, I mean, different tribes call it different things. But the scariest thing to me is I actually saw one of the Indians on TikTok, and the chief was saying that people need to beware because there's two types of Sasquatch. And I don't know if anyone knows this, but there is a violent predator meat eating kind, and there is an herbivore, peaceful, more friendly, and more shy breed. So you actually have two types now. And hearing him explain that, that was actually very interesting. And it makes sense because we're omnivores, you know what I mean? And we eat meat, but I mean, we're not brutal killers necessarily. But he said the one kind you have to truly be scared of, because if it finds you,
Yeah,
it'll kill you and eat you.
yeah, it's deep in their culture,
Oh yeah,
no
very
doubt.
deep in their culture. They talk about the War of 1855. The Indians fought Bigfoot. A lot of their women and children went missing, and they all mounted up, and they were sick of that, and it was going on for a while. So they got this huge, massive hunting party, and they went to find their loved ones, and they found the smell and stench. Then they said they found the bodies and the pile of bones. And then he said the creatures came out, and the Indians were dying, but they were fighting, and they killed a few of them too. But what I thought was the coolest thing was near the end of the story, they said a friendly kind of Bigfoot came out and started helping the Indians fight off the vicious Bigfoot that were grabbing and killing and eating their people. And look that story up, Mark. That's mind blowing. The Indian War of
I'll have to check that
1855.
out,
Yeah,
yeah.
look that one up. That's crazy.
Yeah, a Sasquatch, Skookum, hairy giant, wood devil, wood giant, yeah, it's all rich in their, in their culture for sure. Let me ask you this, Nate. Would you want to have another encounter, or hey, no thank you, I'm
A
done?
peaceful one. A peaceful one where I'm not getting hit, running for my life and scared to death. Yeah, I wouldn't mind a peaceful one. But do I want another up close one? No, no, definitely not.
Yeah, I don't blame you. Yeah, I've never had, going back to encounters, nothing with the Sasquatch or Bigfoot. Have had, I'm gonna call it paranormal, a couple of paranormal encounters, and then some strange lights in three three different times and two different states that I can't explain. Really interesting, but yeah, nothing with a
I've been seeing a lot
Sasquatch.
of weird lights in the sky lately, to be honest with you. I saw two different types. They were blue, but they were blue orbs, and they were in the shape of a triangle and like an X, and they were right just floating in the sky. And it was funny that I happened to see it because my friend went to work, and one of his coworkers was talking about seeing the same thing. And my buddy's like, "Oh, that's crazy. My roommate just saw that last night, about midnight." And then I've been seeing the weird light thing you've been seeing on TikTok where it looks like lights racing in the sky in the clouds, like a huge spotlight or something. That's what it looks
Right.
like. And I actually saw that like a week ago in the backyard. I was walking the dog, and I thought, what is there, a car light or a car show or a carnival or what's going on? And I kept seeing these weird lights just racing and moving through the sky. It was pretty trippy.
And you're in Pennsylvania
Yeah.
now,
Yeah.
correct?
York, Pennsylvania. And
Is that close to Chestnut Ridge,
I'm not,
the
yeah, I'm not
Allegheny
sure.
Mountains?
I'm new here, but yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'll have to check out. I'm not sure exactly
But
where York is, but I
but
know
the
it's
lights
just
are trippy, man. I've seen them
yeah.
more than once too here. I mean, they don't do anything.
Yeah,
They just float there or whatever. I don't know what people are so scared of. I mean, I don't know what they are.
I have one on I don't either. I have one on TikTok that I recorded. We probably recorded a minute of it, maybe a minute and a half. We were near Pensacola, Florida when it happened, and I do not know what it was. It was drone, no aircraft, no
No, yeah,
helicopter.
definitely not.
There was no doubt in my mind about that, and I don't believe it was any sort of military aircraft either. And then I recorded one September the 30th of this year. I have not posted anything on it yet. I may soon, but it was we recorded it for at least 4 to 6 minutes. It was just a bright white light, maybe a quarter of a mile high, and just we had seen a couple of helicopters close by, and there was no doubt it was no helicopter or no plane. And we have an airport close by. You know, I know what that looks like. So don't know what that was either. It was really interesting. But both of them were similar, you know, in the way they looked. Just a bright white light, just barely moving at a slow, methodical pace.
I've only seen them move really slow or just stay stationary. I've never seen them, move fast except these weird, like searchlights I was telling you about. I've been seeing here lately, but
Yeah.
it's interesting because one guy, he was some Air Force guy, and he said that he thinks that they can transform and change design and shape even. They had a video where it was a bright orb, and then slowly it started to take shape like a plane, and then it went back to a glowing orb again. It was pretty trippy.
Yeah. Well, you've seen a lot of this that's come out over the
Yeah,
last
a
year
lot.
in Congress. Yeah, with these hearings. So that's yeah, there's something. I don't know what it is, you know, and I think even these veteran Air Force pilots or Navy pilots don't know either. But there's no known aircraft of any sort that can make those type of maneuvers
No,
at
yeah,
that type of
that type
speed.
of speed. I've seen them do really weird stuff too. In the woods in Florida, sometimes it'd be moving kind of slow and in a straight line, and then all of a sudden, I mean, it might do a complete circle loop to loop and still going in the same direction. But the way it can weave in between the trees and stuff is wild. So yeah, they definitely got
Yeah,
some maneuverability. But you hear no sound. See, this is the thing. You hear no type of propulsion, you hear no type of motor, you hear nothing really.
yeah. The one I filmed or recorded in close to Pensacola, it had no sound. It moved lateral, you know, from right to left, and then back left to right again, and then back left, and it was gone after that. Nowhere to be seen, and it
I've
was
seen it
bright.
where they fade out.
It was just
Is
strange.
that what you mean? It's just faded out?
I don't know if it faded out. There was some trees there in the distance, but it was gone. You know, I don't know where
Because
it
when I
went
was
to.
watching mine, they just slowly eventually faded. I had a crooked neck the
Yeah.
next day. I mean, I stared up in the sky looking at it for close to an hour. And then eventually they were the brilliant, bright, pretty blue, and then they just slowly faded out and just disappeared. So,
Yeah, I'll send you the recording of that one.
oh, okay.
It's Perdido Key, Florida is where it was
Yeah.
at. So
Well, I can't wait to see that then.
yeah, yeah, pretty interesting. Nate, and we did this before. At the end of each episode, we always do a rapid fire Q&A, and it's casual, and I know you know that. But three questions, and I'm going to ask you this pretty quickly, and you just give me the first thing that
All
comes to
right.
mind. All right. All right. Here we go. Favorite Christmas movie?
Home Alone.
Good one. That's probably one of my favorites as well. We've watched it a half a dozen times already this year.
Classic.
That's a classic. Yes. Yes. All right. Number two, favorite Bigfoot TV show, past or present?
Harry and the Hendersons.
Okay. All right. Good one. Yeah. I saw that not too long ago. And third one, if you had to pick one food to take hiking or to eat from now on, what would it be?
Ooh, that's tough. I don't know. I like beef stew a lot.
Beef stew.
Big stew fan.
Good choice. Gotcha. Okay. Well, Nate, I have enjoyed this part two. I'm glad you were able to
Oh
come
yeah,
back on, and it's been really interesting. Some great
yeah.
stories.
I've been excited to do it again with you for sure. I have a couple of more down the
Yeah,
road.
absolutely.
Like I said, I had a lot of experiences over my years. I lived in that part for 42 years, so it was more than just a few sightings.
Right. Well, we may have to do a part three then down
For
the
sure.
road. Yeah, I've enjoyed it. Some pretty incredible encounters that you've had,
Scary to
and
say the least.
yeah, no doubt about it. And let me ask you this: have you done any hiking while you're in
Yeah, we
Pennsylvania?
went to Indian Ladder Waterfall and we climbed a mile straight up. And it's a four-tier stage waterfall that you can see at different levels. And it was the most amazing thing and the most exhausting thing I've ever done. But I'm 51 now, so
Uh,
yeah, for me to climb a mile straight up a mountain, that's an ordeal.
that's
I was
asking a
pretty
lot.
proud of myself,
Yeah,
to be honest with you.
that's
All
pretty
my
good.
friends were
Yes.
15 years or more younger than me, so but yeah, it was
Did you get
breathtaking.
some good views?
Oh, the
Yeah.
Appalachian Mountains are just incredible. We went camping, a place called
Mm.
Raccoon Run. It was just, it's so beautiful here in Pennsylvania. It really is. A lot of mountains, a lot of beautiful sunsets. I don't get to do it as much as I did when I was young and in Florida, but I'm trying to do it here when I can. But yeah, this is a very beautiful state.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to find out exactly where I've heard of York, Pennsylvania, of course, but I just don't know where it's at. But the Chestnut Ridge and that area in Pennsylvania has had so much activity and sightings from Bigfoot to UFO encounters or sightings to just some really interesting.
I did hear the locals here talk about seeing a white Bigfoot, which was actually kind of creepy. They said the face is pink, the hair is white, the hands are really pink too. They said the nails are black. Uh, they said its eyes more of a yellowish green than the ones in Florida with the amberish color. And they claim that this thing peeks in houses and watches people. And yeah, I don't know. That's what the locals here are talking about. So
Yeah, that's
So
interesting.
I've got a few things ready by
Y-
the bed just in case this thing wants to come by looking at my
Yeah.
window.
Yes, I would have. I would be prepared
Yes,
as well.
I will buy a new window and glass if I have to at Home Depot. I
Yes.
sure will.
Yeah, there's been
Mhm.
that the state of Alabama has several reports of a white
No,
Bigfoot as
really?
well.
Man, that's cool.
Yes,
I've never heard of a
I
white
did a
one
short
besides
series.
Yetis, in Canada and Alaska and
Yeah,
stuff. The Himalayas.
yeah, there's several
Hmm.
stories. Yeah, they call it the Alabama White Thing with a A. I don't know where that came from. I'm not sure. Never found it doing my research on it, but yeah, there's been several sightings over
White is an
decades.
interesting color because the ones in Florida, they're really black. And when you can tell when they're young. I'll tell you this tidbit, for part three, but just a teaser. The children are different colored. They're like they're like a light, pretty reddish amber color. Like they're like red and brown. And yeah, so they change color. They're when they're young, they're that reddish brown, and when they get older, yeah, they change to black.
Um, yeah, there's been. I was going to see if I
So
could
do you think
find.
it's like an albino, like a human? You think it's like that rare genetic?
Yes,
Yeah, yeah, I
I
think
do.
it could be
From
too.
from what I've
Yeah.
heard, there's a friend of mine I've had on a podcast maybe a year ago, Sasquatch Data Project, and her name's Terrestrial, but she does a lot of research. I mean, it's extremely thorough, and she reports different colors as well, or she goes over the encounters and different reports and pulls data out of those, and from daytime, excuse me, or nighttime sightings to hair color and stuff. And there's a
Yeah, yeah,
variety
there's a variety.
of, from brown to red to albino or
Yeah,
white, so
it's very interesting.
really is. Really is. Well, Nate,
Oh,
thank you
yeah, thank
again
you for having me on.
coming on. I've
Yeah,
enjoyed
me
it.
too.
And yeah, no doubt. We'll have to do a part
Oh
3,
yeah.
dig into some other
Yeah, I'll
encounters.
tell you the best one when we do 3.
Looking
All
forward to
right,
hearing.
brother. Well, God
Yes.
bless, man. Thanks for
All
having
right.
me.
Yeah, God bless you. Yes. And for the listeners, if you've had an encounter or something strange, click on our link tree in the description and share your encounter. Thank you for listening, and God bless.